Episode 282, Courage to Take the First Step with Jennifer Townsend.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
In this episode, Heather uses the Come Follow Me style format, looking at scriptures through the lens of life coaching. Jennifer Townsend, a betrayal recovery coach, shares how Joshua's transition after Moses' death offers powerful lessons for anyone facing uncertainty, divorce, betrayal, or major life change. Heather and Jennifer explore Joshua's call to be strong and of good courage through the lens of life coaching, betrayal recovery, identity, agency, and faith. They discuss how courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to step forward with God even when life feels uncertain. Please enjoy.
Hey friends, welcome to the podcast today. Today we are going to take a little bit of a different take on the podcast. We're going to come at it from a little bit of a different angle, and I'm excited about it. But before I tell you where we're going, I would like you to re-meet, because she's been with me before on the podcast, but Coach Jennifer Townsend. Hi, Jennifer. How you doing?
Hey, hi. So nice to be here, Heather. And I'm really excited for this challenge. This was a challenge for me, and I'm excited. I need to push myself in the scriptures. Anyways, yeah, I call myself Life Coach Jen. I am a betrayal recovery coach. So I help men and women heal from betrayal. And I'm also divorced. So I love that each of the coaches, you said, let's do it from the lens of your niche, which is interesting to apply. How could experiencing betrayal or divorce, how could the scriptures help me? And sometimes of course, my mom's answer is always read your scriptures and you'll feel better. And I'm like, I don't feel it's not very helpful. But actually, there is some great insight that I was like, this is so great. I kind of feel excited that we're going to be, doing the Come Follow Me in the sections that we're doing today and figure out how could we apply the scriptures in our own life, in our own struggle. And I think we all have different struggles, but you really can, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's true. So Jennifer, just let you know that what we're wanting to kind of come follow me. And this might not be a permanent thing. We just thought, let's just see how this goes for a little while. Come follow me scriptures. And we know that there's a lot of people that discuss come follow me. You can listen to lots of different podcasts, but we want to come at it through the lens of a life coach on how we could use the things that were taught there through the lens of a life coach for ourselves as coaches and for our clients. So
yeah,
I love it. That's what we're going to do for at least the next couple of months. So if you guys that are listening like this, we would love to hear your response. So leave us a comment or review. You could even email us at email@ldslifecoaches.com. We would love to hear what your thoughts are. Message us on Instagram. We're on Instagram at LDS Life Coaches. So anyway, like I said, even though this is our first recording in this format, this actually will not be the first recording that airs in this format. The way that the lineup was done in the podcast recording, Jennifer is actually a couple weeks down the line. So you'll have heard some other ones done as far as Come Follow Me does if you're listening with us today. But know that when you're listen to those ones, we've kind of worked out some of the kinks maybe, and Jennifer is my guinea pig to help me work it out. So without further ado, we're just going to hit it and go with this. So in the Come Follow Me this week, the scriptures that we are talking about we're Joshua right now, right? And so just to give you guys all context, Moses has just died. which is a really big transition for the people. And Joshua is now leading Israel. They're about to enter the promised land, and this is something that they have been waiting for, obviously, for a really long time, but it's also something that they are afraid of. So that's kind of what's happening scripturally and historically, if you're looking at this as a historical document. So the things, like they're stepping into something that's good, right? It's not like they're going into something that could be fearful for them, that's bad. They know that this could be good for them. But they don't know what that looks like. So it feels very uncertain. And the Lord at this point in time just keeps telling Joshua, be strong and of good courage, for the Lord thy God is with thee. I think it's important for people to know that God isn't just saying, wait until you feel confident. He's saying, go and I'll be with you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we see almost every day in our lives. There's things that are uncertain, and our souls crave certainty. That's like what humans want, and really nothing in our life is certain, so it's really hard. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit, starting with that. Like in Joshua, there's a lot of self-doubt for them in stepping forward anyway, even though like it feels uncertain, they're being willing to step forward anyway. Jennifer shared with us that she is a betrayal coach, and we'll be coming at it from that lens for her. But obviously these things apply to us in every other way as well. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on self-doubt and stepping forward anyway, Jennifer?
Well, I think I want to go back a little bit to courage, because
Okay.
I looked up the definition of courage, and it says the ability to do something that frightens us. And you can definitely see during this time in the scriptures, we think we shouldn't feel nervous to do something hard, but for sure, like courage is really hard to have a lot of courage. And I think with these people and then applying it into our own lives and in my own experience with courage, we think we should just be confident and do it. But you have to actually have courage first, and then you can be confident. You build your confidence. And I know in my own experience, if you're experiencing something really hard, like betrayal or deciding, should I stay married or get divorced, you don't feel very strong. You don't feel clear. You don't feel ready to make a decision. And that's when courage has to come in. And I think God knows that, right? He knows that, okay, in the scriptures, it talks about this, right? We can have courage sometimes, because I don't think Joshua was confident, right? He wasn't confident. He just had courage and faith that he needed to do this. And then with self-doubt, I mean, we question ourselves all the time. Are we making the right choice? Are we doing what we're supposed to do? And so sometimes I think we just have to trust in God and to be strong, to do something that we might be afraid of. Anyways, so that I really think that point in this section of scripture is really powerful. I think if we can apply that in our lives and find moments to have courage, to see what would that look like, because most times people are just focused on the fear.
Yeah, and we think that courage is absent of fear. For some reason, we think that being courageous means we're not afraid.
Yeah, it actually, you are terrified, right? I just envision all just so many scenarios in your life, and it's not even true. That's the lie our brain is telling us, right? Sometimes you just have to step into it and know that, just like in Joshua, they knew it was a good thing. Sometimes we don't for sure know that it's a good thing, but it's like we kind of think, okay, maybe it's better than what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point. I think, to that self-doubt piece, we think it's a good thing. I think about some times in my life where I've felt like I am doing something good, I think.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of fear will come in, and I'll think, oh, that must not be because I'm feeling fear, and that must be like the Spirit speaking to me. And it hasn't been till I've gotten older when I remember scripture that God doesn't speak to us through fear. That's our natural man. That's our natural tendencies. He would speak to me through peace. And So when I get confused and think, oh, this fear must mean stop, I have to remind myself that that's not actually
Yeah.
reality. This means I might just need a little bit more courage
Yeah.
because it wouldn't be courage if there wasn't fear involved.
Yeah. And I think, we have, I mean, many people in this world, they have like, I'm not enough. I'm not,
Mhm.
I've done something wrong, right? That's the doubt coming in. But we have to, I think, also believe, no, we are whole, we're worthy, right? That I work a lot with clients and I've done the work on myself. No, I am worthy. I am enough. It was never about me. And so just reminding yourself that is, I think, just really helpful to know that no, God, we're going to have trials. We're going to have courage in our life, but our innate worth is always there. And anyway,
Yeah.
that self doubt is, of course, going to creep in,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
This makes me think a little bit of because I think that doubt of like, are we worthy? Are we good enough? We think that that also means there's something wrong with us if we're doubting us, but I really think that that's part of our human condition. That's part of, like, we think all the way back to Adam and Eve, where they covered themselves with the fig leaves, right? Because they were ashamed when they heard God or thought that he was going to be in their presence, right? We have to run and hide. And so I think we come by that naturally. It's just part of our human condition to think that. And that's one of the things that we get to learn to overcome is our own self-doubt, thinking that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough. And it's just a like,
Yeah, it's like a lifelong process, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
some moments we
absolutely.
feel good enough, and other moments we do not. So, um, anyways, yeah, so I really liked that about these particular scriptures. It really,
Hmm.
just give you some moments, realize like, no, everyone struggled even back in the very long time ago.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you have any examples even with your clients or even of yourself, what it looks like to act while you're still afraid or while you're still doubting or what it takes to do that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, in my own personal life, like just deciding to actually get divorced, terrified,
Mhm.
right? I was so scared and I had so much doubt. Is this the right decision? And I just finally, for me, I think I just had to decide, no, I am just going to have faith. And I knew what I was dealing with was not good, right? The amount of betrayal and the lies. So I just think most people, I mean, I would just say most people making that decision, especially after betrayal, am I going to get divorced? And especially with, if we have, married in the temple, you're sealed, like it's a hard decision. Sometimes people don't really understand how difficult that decision is. I don't think people recognize on the outside how difficult that is to break that covenant, even though I didn't break my covenants, my husband did. And so, yeah, I just thought I just knew, okay, this can't get worse. This could only get better. And
Mhm.
it has. And so I just, yeah, I had to have a lot of courage to do that because there was a fear. And it seems looking at it from outside, maybe why would that be a hard decision or why would that be hard? Why would you have to have so much courage? But it's, you're kind of stepping out of the tribe, out of the norm. It takes a lot of courage to do that, to do something different that other people maybe are telling you or counseling you not to do. Or, I mean, there's lots of opinions, right? And so that's why you have to take your own authority, your own knowing, which is what I help clients figure out. What do they believe? Because it's really doesn't matter what other people think. It really matters what you think and God.
And I think it's important for us to note that when that is happening, once again, it doesn't mean that anything's gone wrong when you start to
Right.
feel or question that. Like, that is your brain working the way that it's supposed to,
Yeah.
right? That your brain is wired to keep you safe. So anytime you are trying to step away from something that has been the norm or has been comfortable, or you're stepping away, like you said, like from your tribe, like that tribe
Yeah.
is
Well,
what
it's
keeps us
keeping us
safe,
alive.
right?
Yeah. And safe.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's just shifting your identity, right? Shifting
Mhm.
what you thought was your reality. And so it's complicated. I think there's a lot of complications, but courage is definitely, I think, a skill to work on developing for anyone, right? We have to have courage to try all sorts of new things.
And people will say, well, how do you develop courage or how do you practice that skill? And really, the only way, and maybe you have some suggestions, but like the only way is just to do uncomfortable things, like just to keep doing it and start small, right? Just
Yeah.
make that phone call and recognize that you've done that, like that you did something that took courage, and that gives you proof I can do that again. Like the more we practice it, the more we're able to do it.
Which then gives us more confidence, right? So it's like you
Yes.
have to have the courage to do it, and then you build your confidence in doing it. I mean, I would say podcasting for me was terrified. I started my podcast 5 years ago, and I was thinking, what do I have to say? Like, really, I'm going to tell my story. And of course, at the beginning, not many people are listening to it because it's just like your mom. But even my mom listening to it was intimidating.
Yes.
So, it's small, right? We just have to do. And that's something that I learned with getting divorced. I did a very uncomfortable thing. So now, I mean, I just doing this podcast on Come Follow Me. I'm like, oh, could I do that? But I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. This is off niche here, but
Yeah, it's okay.
just my husband and I were skiing. It's like been a couple of months, and the snow this year was terrible.
Yes.
But it was like we had gone off the groom trail because we had to get someplace else, and it was like a solid sheet of ice. And I can ski, but I am not a super good skier. And I yelled down to my husband because he's like, "You have to go all the way over there." I'm like, "I do not want to go all the way over there on this sheet of ice." And I'm like, "I'm just going to sit down and scoot down." And he's like, "You're not doing that. You can do hard things. Like you are courageous and you've done plenty of hard things. You don't have to sit and scoot down." And I was like, you're right. Like just having him remind me, and we get to kind of have those conversations with our own brain. It's very like this was my husband speaking to me, but I can have that same conversation with myself and
Yes.
remind myself that I've done difficult things. I can find the courage inside of me to do those things.
Yes. That's the story of my life. I can do hard things.
Hmm. Yeah.
Had to do lots of hard things. And skiing, I'm
Yeah.
like, I can do this. I can do this. I can get down the hill.
I know. And one more thing before we leave this particular area. I look at they're moving into the promised land, and then they do have regrets once they're there, right? Like they know that it's a good place to be, but then things get hard and they're like, why did you bring us here? Like we shouldn't have been here in the first place. And we do that too in our minds, right? Like we move forward and then all of a sudden we're like, well, wait, this is still hard. I shouldn't have maybe done this.
Yeah.
It must have been wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you?
Oh, yeah,
have
for
you
sure. I
experienced-
mean, I always tell people marriage is hard and divorce is hard. And,
Mhm.
so you got to just choose your hard. I think, of course, I mean, life is 50% amazing and 50% hard. And so but we have to train our brain to look at the good, right? Look at the miracles. I think gratitude is our biggest weapon, like as far as like looking at the positive. If we can have a gratitude practice, it can be really powerful because then we're focused on, okay, what are we grateful for instead of what's going wrong? Because you can, any given day, you can have something really good, but for whatever reason, our brains focus on the negative, and the negative can sometimes overshadow anything positive going on. And so I just think that's our brain, but we have to practice at it. And why I think, getting good at gratitude, focusing on what's one thing I could be grateful today. I used to write like 3 things down every day. I've done all sorts of different ways, but I think that is just training your brain to focus on, okay, what is good about today?
Yeah, our brain is always, it wants to be busy.
Yeah.
It wants something to do. And when it's unguarded, it will just run and it will find all the hard things, right? Because it's wired to keep you safe and protect you from danger.
Yeah.
And so unless we give it something intentionally to think about, like to your point, find the good things, find the positive things, it will live in that space of negativity and
Yeah,
not
and
really that helpful for
most
us.
people live like that. They're very unconscious living. You can just see it and then you can look at someone even on any social media. It's like something good, right? And then there's just all this negative too. I'm like, some people's brains see amazing and some people's brains see this is terrible.
Yeah. I've just in my own personal life and in my own personal brain been trying to really shift from like I want to be somebody that I love to be with, just myself, right? Because sometimes my thoughts can be so intrusive, that's the right word, so intrusive that it's like not even fun to sit and be with me. And I've just been like, no, like I want to be fun for me to be with. And so I've been
I
like
love,
that's the vibe. That's the energy that I've been trying
yeah,
to come from lately. And when I can remind myself of that and pull myself back to that space, it is fun. Like I am able to just lighten up my own things in my own head. So I don't know. We get to do that. It's
yeah,
something that we can make the choice to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely worth working on.
Yeah. Okay. So another thought here. Joshua is is coming in after Moses, right? Like he is, whether people loved or didn't like Moses, like that was probably very personal, but Joshua still is coming in behind somebody who was influential and he's probably naturally going to feel like maybe he's not enough. Like there's that comparison that we all
Yes.
make and that we all do in our life. So I'd like to talk a little bit right now about like those feelings of inadequacy, of being unsure, of feeling overwhelmed, all things that I'm assuming, and we're putting words in the mouth of Joshua here because we don't know, but we can read some scriptures that kind of lead us to see that maybe those are some things that he felt. What is it, like what's the difference between who you are and how you feel? Like what does that look like?
We put our identity in other people so often, right? In our kids, our marriage, our religion. We identify with lots of different things outside of us.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to focus on true identity is our value, our worth, if we're a kind person or not, I think we mix roles and identity a lot. And so, but we identify, we think like, okay, if you ask any mom, tell me about yourself. I have 4 kids and this is where I live. And right. And so that becomes a problem especially when something like our kids do something that we don't agree with, or our husband or our wife. And so part of our identity, I think, is important to know like, no, we are worthy. We're daughters, children of God. And I think that's important. And our emotions, well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, I
Meaning,
think you perfectly did in some way because I like we will always show up how we feel, like
yes,
letting our emotions take over if we are not really confident and sure of who we are personally, right? Like which I think we all need to spend time really coming to understand what our identity is, what our values are, what it means to be us. And when we can understand that, like the comparison, we're not always so quick to compare ourselves to other people if we can find our own worth in that, knowing, recognizing that. So,
yeah, I mean, some people, it's a bigger challenge than others, right? And
mm,
but I always, it's the thief of joy. It really will make us miserable because each of us, we're all unique and we all have different gifts and talents and things to bring to the world. And I think going inward and focusing on what we have instead of focusing outward is really valuable. Yeah.
so I want to try something here that maybe, I don't know, it's just coming to my mind. If you were speaking to Joshua,
Mm,
who was in this position coming in after Moses, still leading people who really are not too sure what they want. I mean, it seems like the people that Joshua, like they've wandered, they kind of waffle in what they want to be committed to and what they don't want to be committed to. Like if you were speaking to Joshua and you recognize that he was um lacking in, confidence in his identity and who he was, what would you say? What would that look like?
what would I say? I would just say I would, help him discover what his thoughts were, right? And just be like, you
Mhm.
can do this. Like God, you are here for you were put on earth at this moment after Moses died to lead these people. And so I would, figure out what was going, what, of course, negative thoughts he was thinking, his insecurity.
Yeah.
I would be, talk to him about, no, you were put on this earth for this purpose. You can do this. You are strong enough. I would help encourage him, of course. Figure out what he was thinking before I did that, help him figure out a different thought. But no, like have faith that no, this is the reason we're here. This is what you were meant to do. That these people are looking at you for help. You were born to, this was part of what you were destined to do. So I don't know. I don't know as if that would be helpful for him, but I would just for sure help him see, by talking to him and seeing where he was stuck to help him identify, no, okay, this is my purpose. This is what I was supposed to be doing. It's okay that you're scared. It's okay that you aren't completely confident. That's not the point. The point is just to do. God has asked you to do this. And so stepping into that. Sometimes we have to just take action, right? And then we have to have faith to take the action, and then the miracle happens. And that's hard for people, right? But I think sometimes we just want the miracle to happen. We want, the Jordan River, they needed to get across the river. And so they were told, no, you have to step in first. And that seems easy. Like really just step in and then the river is going to part. And sometimes it's either sounds too easy. And so then we think, well, it needs to be harder and we make it harder. Or we think, well, can you show me a miracle first? I want to see first before I do this action step. And I think so often we have to do something. We have to take action. And I think with my clients, especially, like I want peace. People tell me, I just want a good clarity. I want to know what my answer should be. I just want to know for certain it's going to be okay, right? We like certainty. But yet I'm like, well, we have to get some actions, right? And so in my coaching, it would be, you have to maybe make a decision. Sometimes we have to make the decision first and then take the action. And people want to know, well, is that decision the right or wrong one? And in my brain, I just always decide whatever decision I make was the best choice and decision for me. It's what I help people see, because sometimes there's not a right or wrong decision. I think you have to take action, even if you hire a coach, right? Having a coach, that's an action step. You're like, I know something's going on. I know I'm struggling with whatever it is struggling with. You have to do some action. You can't just sit there and think my problems will go away if I have enough faith. No, God wants us to take action, just like he asked these people to do. You just have to step into the water. So I think that can really apply a lot. Like sometimes we have to set a boundary, or we just have to do something. And then it becomes more clear. Then we have more peace. Then we maybe see that our answer or whatever action we did was the right action. And I think the water didn't part just because they were standing there. It showed in the scriptures that they had to step into it. And so own lives, sometimes we have to do something, then we get more clarity and we can have more answers. But most people don't want to do that. They just want
the making of the decision is more anxiety inducing than actually doing the thing, is what I have found for me, right? Like, and to your point, and this, like, I remember a business decision that I had been confronted with, or like an opportunity, actually it was starting to do, it was the life coach directory, the LDS life coach directory that I do, right? Which you're part of here. somebody had kind of got the bones of it put together and then they decided they didn't want to run it. And I was like, no way, that does not sound like anything that I'm interested in doing. But yet the thought kept coming back to me like, yeah, it might be kind of interesting. It might be. And I'm like, no, no, no. And then one day I finally was like, well, maybe. And as soon as I said, well, maybe that might be interesting, it was like the ideas started to come that made me feel really excited about it. But the anxiety of like making the decision to even do it leading up to it was worse than just saying, "No, I'm going to do this," right? It was just like we just get to do it. And then, like you said, once we make the decision, it opens our brain up to the possibilities. It's like, our heavenly parents have been like, okay, like she's ready now. We can give her the ideas because
Yes.
before we couldn't burden her with all the ideas. She was just trying to make a
Well, you
decision.
weren't open for them, right? I
Yeah.
always say what we resist persists. And
Hmm.
so people resist things all the time, and they're just so resistant that they can't see any other way. And it's just a really not a great way to live, and not, it's not very, you're not going to see the miracles. You're not going to see that because you're so resistant. People think, I mean, forgiveness, if I forgive them, then that means it didn't matter, right? Like we just have all these things that hold us back. And I just think I did like this part of the scripture in this week's Come Follow Me, is that no, they also had to just step in. And then once they did, then they were able to get across. And so I think looking at your own life and see where aren't you stepping in could be really powerful, to see. We don't have to do 10 things. We can just do one thing. There's one thing in everyone's life, I think, that we're resisting, that we're not stepping into. And so the more we can, just try it, just like you did with, this platform, the LDS life coaches. Think of all the great things that you've been able to do, this podcast and all the coaches to help. And so I think we all have those things in our life.
I love that question that you offered. Like, where is it that we're not stepping in? I don't know that I've ever kind of looked at it that way, but I feel like I kind of want to ponder that for a while and see those places in my life where I've not been willing to step in.
Yeah, I'm
Mm.
sure we all have them. We'll do another podcast about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stepping in. But yeah, I think, and the next thing that I think you were going to talk about is like how, like letting go, like of our manuals that we have.
Hmm.
That was the next thing. So it's like we step in and then we have to let go, which both of those things are really scary.
Yeah. And just in case people don't know what we mean by letting go of manuals, do you want to describe what that is?
Yeah, I think, so in let's see, do you want me, well, I'll describe what a manual is. Okay, so
Yeah.
manuals, oftentimes we have a whole bunch of ideas how our husbands should be, how our wife should be, how our kids should act, how our mother-in-laws are, brothers and sisters. We have this idea that, how we want them to be so we can feel seen and loved and heard. And those things can prevent us from connecting because we have, and sometimes our manuals are good, right? Like I have a manual that my husband should be faithful to me and tell me the truth. Now, he wasn't doing that. And so I eventually was able to let go of my marriage, but it still is hard. Or how our kids, we want them to go to church. Well, when they don't go to church, then it becomes a problem for us. And so I think recognizing, and most of us, we don't even recognize we have them, or if we do, we don't recognize that our spouse doesn't know what our manual is. I always use the dishwasher example because I think people have lots of feelings about dishes and dishwashers. It's like, you didn't do it right. And so then there's a huge fight over loading the dishes. And I'm thinking, really, do we want to waste our energy and connection on fighting over the dishwasher, how it's loaded? It's like, what if we could just be grateful someone did it and we didn't have to? Or, taking out the garbage. And so, of course, little things sometimes can help people see the bigger things when they realize, like, oh, I'm putting a lot of there's a right way to do the dishes. And it causes people tremendous amount of pain and fighting over dishes. And I'm thinking there are other things we could be, focusing on. Just anyway. So yeah, I think manuals, it's just like having, you buy a new appliance and you get a manual how this works with the appliance. And we as humans have created those, even not realizing it, for all the people in our life.
Yeah. And the problem is those people don't know
Yeah.
what the manual, the expectations we have for them. Like
Yeah.
we don't tell them, and so they can never live up to those expectations. And so then it's frustrating for all of us.
Yes.
It kind of leads to us trying to control them, or like us disconnecting, which also comes from us trying to control. But so this stems in the scripture. This point connects here in Joshua 6. Jericho doesn't fall in the normal quote unquote way. And so the people are left thinking, like Israel likely had the expectations of how victory should happen, but God did it differently. And
Yes.
so in our own lives, there are so many things that we think should look a certain way. Like I'm sure you thought that your marriage, we even have manuals for things other than people, right? Like
Yes.
the way a city should fall according to the Israelites,
Yes.
right? It
Yeah.
should fall this way. Marriages should look this way.
Yes.
And when they don't, it can be really disappointing. And so that is even just as frustrating to us as the actual problem itself. Like the lack of something not going the way that we think it should is just as much of a problem as the problem can be.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And I think reality is hard for people. They're like, it was not supposed to go this way. And
yeah,
even though it did, we resist it and fight it so much. Our reality, it's hard for people to understand. Like, I wasn't supposed to be divorced. My kids, I never wanted them to have divorced parents. And so when that's your reality, the resistance is really strong. And
yes.
because they have this manual that they're really struggling letting go of and recreating a new idea. And yeah, I think the frustration that causes us more pain, and it's self-induced, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and we think it's our spouse made us feel frustrated, but it's really our thoughts about our spouse and our manual that we have that they didn't even know. And sometimes they might have told us things, but that's not who we are. They're wanting us to be someone different than we are. And that can be frustrating too and hurtful because it's like, hey, you're asking me to be someone that I'm not. And can't you just love me for who I am? And I don't know. I think manuals are a big problem in relationships, in all sorts of relationships, and just in life in general. I mean, politics, so many things in the world. Someone has a manual and everyone has different thoughts and feelings of how something should be. And so it is really fascinating when you can be like learn how to let go of it and be like, wait, what if this was exactly how it was supposed to happen? That's such a more freer, confident, like it just feels so much better to think like, what if I was just wrong about that?
Well, and I think that brings us full circle actually in our conversation today because it comes back to identity. Like the goal is for us to know who we are and to be confident in who we are, know our values, know the things that are important to us, and know that somebody else is going to have their own identity, their own values, their own things that are important to them, their own weaknesses and their own limitations. And they can be that person. They don't have to be what we expect them to be or we think they should be. Like we can let people be who they are. We can be who we are, and we can still have connection
Yeah.
if we choose to, right? Because that's the whole point of being able to drop our manuals is that we want connection. And if we walk around with a life full of expectations, it keeps us and then being disappointed when people don't,
Yeah.
do the things we expect them to do. Where does that leave us? It leaves
Yeah.
us with a
Miserable.
life without disconnection. And
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
so not the point.
Yeah. I always say love feels the very best. So how would love show up here? Because I've had many challenges with my own children, with my own marriage, my own life. My life did not go as planned. And so I really had to shift that and help my client shift it because and I think we forget sometimes we're easy like look at how can I love everyone else, but it's really starts with yourself, which will help. The more you love yourself, the more confident you are, the more willing you are to drop people's manuals, the more willing you are to step into your life and to let go of things that you could let go of. So I think that work, that component is, I think, will change your life.
Manuals can be hard to drop.
Mhm.
And people will the first thing they'll say is, "Well, how do I just not expect this of somebody? Like, it does shouldn't I just like, isn't that just what people should do?" And the key isn't necessarily just to drop expectations, it's just to be aware that you have them
Yes.
initially, just to start becoming aware of the things that you think somebody should be doing, right? Like, and recognize that it's not that they're doing it that's causing the pain. And like, yes, your husband did things in your marriage that I don't want to argue and say that shouldn't have been painful, right? Because it would be painful to
Right.
deal with that. Recognizing that it's just as much our thoughts and our things that we think about them that causes us the pain as well. And
Yeah.
and being aware that
Yes.
we have those things.
Yeah. I think awareness is the first step. And then when you're aware,
Mhm.
then you get a choice, right? Some people think, well, they took my choice away. But it's not true. It's like we always have agency. We always that's one thing they talk about in I think section 24 is our agency, and agency is such a beautiful gift, and sometimes we give it away kind of to other people because we think we don't have a choice, but sometimes it's like no, sometimes we're just choosing. We don't think we're making the choice, but in my marriage, I had to realize, like, no, I chose to stay in that for whatever reason. I probably mostly unaware during my marriage, except for, towards the end when I started finding coaching and getting more healed. But yeah, you still chose it, right? And so doesn't mean that you agreed with it, but I think it's important to recognize, yeah, like, okay, I see here that, I think a marriage should, be monogamous. And clearly, whether, I don't know. I think the awareness of our manuals is really helpful in moving through to becoming the person we really want to be.
I mean, just taking it back to the Israelites, like, if they didn't have this expectation that, if they weren't thrown for a loop that Jericho fell the way that it did, they wouldn't have had the thoughts that they had. Like, this was just the way it was supposed to happen. It wouldn't have taken them down,
Yeah.
the road that it took them down as far as thinking that things didn't happen the way that they should have. So,
Yes. Yeah. And the I think this scripture in Joshua 24, let's see, 24:15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I feel like I feel like I've had that on a quote, right? As for me and my house, I will serve the Lord. And I think when people can put their eye and their focus on God and know, okay, I'm going to serve, this is where my focus is, other things will be in our life that feel hard, can really help us get through those things.
mhm.
But that we get to choose, right? Do we want to serve God or do we want to serve man? And I like that we have a choice. And sometimes I think we let people take away we let people take away our agency because we think we don't have a choice. We have to stay in this relationship or we have to live this way or whatever. I don't know. I just think we always have a choice and we have say in what we want.
Yeah, I think that is so true. And I think once again, like, it starts with awareness of who we are
Yes.
and also awareness of and encompassed in who we are is the way that we tend to think about things, the things that we think should think, the way that we think things should look and the expectations we have for people. It's coming to know all those things about us and then making conscious choices to think in a way that helps us live in alignment with our values and who, the person that we continue to want to be. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for doing this with me today. And it's so fun. I love I love the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I love the skills that have come in my life because of life coaching. And I am just happy that we have this place where we can kind of intersect the two and use scripture to look at life through the lenses of a coach and apply those tools in there. So thanks for joining me on that today.
Thanks for having this great idea and doing. I'm glad I'm here.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Before we leave, can you share with people how they can connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on my website, lifecoachjen.com. I'm also on all social media platforms as Happily Even After Coach. And I have a podcast called Happily Even After Betrayal with Life Coach Jen. So you can listen to my podcast. You can go to my website. I have a free quiz that I offer people to let them know where they are in their betrayal journey. I want to help men and women heal from betrayal because healing is necessary, whether you're married or divorced, whether the affair happened 20 years ago and you're now just dealing with it, if it happened a month ago. I work with all sorts of, all those situations because sometimes 20 years ago, we didn't have the capacity to heal. And now we do. And so it's very fascinating because healing can take moments. It doesn't have to take a long time, but we have to do it. Otherwise, it just stays inside of us. It just lives there if we do not heal that wound. And it's a pretty significant wound.
So grateful for what you have to offer because so many people need it. And healing, like you said, is key. So thank you. Thanks again for joining me. Thank you to our listeners for being here with us. And we will see you again next week. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.